Organizations and executive teams, they have a tendency to bog down, and sometimes they end up losing traction. Sometimes they don't even necessarily know why. I'm going to show you really quick, just kind of an easy way for you to be able to take a look at one of the biggest problems that we find so consistently within executive teams. And it really has to do with what we call the proximity priority. Now, here's the thing. I'm going to go ahead and just share my screen with you really quick here. I'm going to draw out a couple things for you so you can kind of get the idea around this. But first and foremost is that when you have a certain level of responsibility, you have to make sure that you also have the same equal amount of authority. Now, in some situations, this doesn't necessarily work. Like, you might be a smaller company or whatnot, and you have to give somebody a lot of responsibility, but you don't necessarily want them making all the decisions without having some systems of checks and balances in place, or maybe you don't necessarily want them to have the spending power to be able to match up with that level of responsibility. Now, in those cases, you need to have a workaround in this, because here's the thing, is that when the level of responsibility does not equal the level of authority that you're giving to a specific leader, your organization ends up bogging down, and so you have to have some fail-safes in place to making sure that you actually can compensate and for you to be able to continue to build out the culture that you want. So here's the thing, is that whenever you have responsibility, but you're not able to have the level of authority, then you have to go ahead and figure out a way to have these things in place. You have to have proximity, and you have to have communication. Now, why is this? It's simply because of this, is that leaders are still humans at the end of the day. Well, at least I hope that they're humans. If you have some non-humans on your team, I suppose we should probably chat about that as well. But responsibility and equal authority means that your team can move along well. There's a lot of security in it. People can make decisions. Things move along pretty fast. There's high levels of trust. But whenever you start taking away that level of authority for them to be able to make the decisions necessary for them to match up with their level of responsibility, what ends up happening is certain levels of insecurity and certain levels of doubt, certain levels of white noise ends up getting into the minds of the leaders that are sitting in those seats. And to be honest with you, I've been in those seats before, and there's nothing more painful than having high levels of responsibility without the authority to go along with it. So how do you compensate with that? You have to make sure that you have proximity and clear communication. So a couple of quick things that you can do that are easy to making sure that you can win in this specific scenario and keep your company and keep your team moving along with high levels of execution. Number one is creating moments in which you're sharing places at the table with one another. Invite those team members to the table in which you are getting face-to-face time where the decisions are actually making, and allow them to actually be a part of those processes. It's going to save you so much time. It's going to help raise the security of the people that are currently on your team. The second thing is making sure that those key proximity moments, now these don't have to be long meetings, but I would highly suggest even just getting a standing meeting either weekly or bi-weekly to where your team knows that they can see your eyes and they can feel your heart, they understand your vision, they know you care about them, and you're not specifically holding back authority because you're punishing them or because you don't trust them. It's just an operational thing. So making sure that there's clear proximity moments, it's on the schedule and it's prioritized. And the second thing is making sure that there's very clear communication. Whenever you are taking authority away from, or you're not actually giving authority to somebody that's necessary to match up with their level of responsibility that they have to execute within the team, you have to make sure that you're communicating clearly and make sure that you're encouraging, making sure that you're clear with expectations, making sure that you're celebrating the wins along the way, and you're not just hammering the things that are going wrong. This will help you so much if you can go ahead and adapt this proximity priority into your weekly strategy as far as how you're leading your executive team, and you'll see yourself go a lot further, a lot faster. So I hope that's helpful. Have an amazing week, and we'll talk to you next week.